Good morning. I am continuing my studies in the Old Testament, and I've been reading through Genesis and just beginning Exodus. And one of the things that I see a clear theme is that God often takes a lot longer doing things than we think He should. We start out with the story of Joseph, we talked about a while ago. Joseph was sold into slavery at age 17. It wasn't until he was age 30, 13 years later, that God brought him into the position where he would be able to do what God had called him to do. Going further back, even before Joseph, Noah. God said in Genesis 6:3 that there would be a flood, that a flood would come in 120 years, that he would wipe out man. And he called Noah to build an ark. Noah built this ark, they say, it took him 55 years or more to build this ark. Yet he continued to do what God had called him to do. So that when the time came, when the flood came, Noah was in position to save mankind. Now, here in Exodus, I'm reading about Moses. Moses spent 40 years in Pharaoh's court, then 40 years in the wilderness before God called him to go back to Egypt to bring his people out of slavery. So, what is my point? Oftentimes, we get very frustrated when we are in a position where it looks like things go from bad to worse, when it looks like God is not hearing us. We know oftentimes that He's called us to something, but when things don't go smoothly, we get frustrated. We try to take things into our own hands. But we have to learn to be obedient while we wait on God to act. God's timing is perfect. It always is, whether we see it or not. God has a big picture. He is working things out, and we don't always see them. And oftentimes we get so frustrated. But if you think back to Joseph, Joseph continued to do good despite being a slave for Pharaoh. Look at Noah. Noah was teased and ridiculed for building this ark, but he continued to build because he was being obedient to God. God is going to call you to something, and oftentimes you're going to have to go through, not just for months, sometimes even for years, sometimes, to get to where God wants you to be, to get into that position that God wants you. You must learn to be faithful. You must learn to trust God, trust His timing. He is working things out for you. He is working things out for all of us. God has that big picture that we do not have. So I want to encourage you this morning, as it says in Galatians 6:9, and let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we not lose heart. Your timing will come. Stay faithful, stay focused, stay on the path God has called you, and be obedient. And your day will come. Your day will come. Trust in Him. Have a wonderful, wonderful, blessed day, and walk in what God has called you to.